All right, good day and welcome. I guess this will be probably the last part. Problem is the videos, if they run over 11 and a half minutes or something like that, it goes to a part, and then you got like this 30-second part or whatever to finish up the video. But in summary, the SG61 Reissue I think is a phenomenal guitar. I know I'm just talking it to death, and I know there's better guitar reviews out there, but one thing is people don't get into the depth of it. You know, like you can listen to people play these things you know, on YouTube and stuff like that, but you will never understand the guitar until you either hear one on stage, which the first concert I ever went to was AC/DC and LA Guns back in the late 80s. And that was the loudest concert I ever been to, especially what they did for Those About to Rock, those battleship cannons going off there, just in such a small venue for that too. It was unbelievable. But that guitar sound, wow. It was just so angry. It was just so bash you in the face, and it just hooked me onto the SG. Now, ironically enough, back in the 90s, I did not buy the SG61 Reissue, and I didn't quite have the money for one of these. I ended up going with an Ibanez RG750 because of Steve Vai and Joe Satriani, who were my other guys that I really liked at the time. And I figured I was 15 years old. I will probably never be able to buy another expensive guitar again. I worked 2 years every weekend, you know, as when I wasn't in school, I was doing this side job or whatever. And I saved up all this money and I went and I bought that guitar. But I always said to myself that, you know, I bought the Ibanez because it was Strat-like in the sense you had 5 different sounds on the pickup. You had the Floyd, what you call edge tremolo on it. You had the Wizard neck, which is even thinner and flatter, wider. But I could never play the RG750 the way I could play an SG. Again, a little bit tighter in here, but I could do everything that I could do on the RG. Shredding wise, but minus the 2 frets because it was 24 fret, but I couldn't do the chording the same way on the RG because it was such a stretch. And I even find it with I got big monkey hands. Like, I'm not a big guy, but I know you can't really tell, but you know, like my hands are pretty big. You know what I mean? Like my fingers are long. I got piano fingers, right? So when I get into chords, when I'm on a Telecaster, they're great for chords, but I found it all, you know, Telecaster, even some of the Strats, like, it's a little close, right? And then I get onto the RG and I'm like, oh, this is great. Okay, got to do a freaking chord here. Wow, that's quite the stretch. And then I get on the SG and it's just like, everything's there. And I, for years and years and years and years, put off buying one of these because I just kept telling myself it's too expensive, it's too expensive. But then when I bought one, I wasn't buying cheaper guitars. And what made me buy one is that I ended up buying, back in like 2003 to 2005, I was buying all these $500 guitars. They were all good. They were all cool. I even had, well, the predecessor to my SG3 and this was a Epiphone EDS 1275 double neck, which I kind of regret selling that because that guitar was really cool. And that one really got a lot of, I never seen so many camera flashes in my life on stage was with that, the double neck. But even this, when you get really riled up with it, people are like, wow, that's what a sound. But it was just a guitar that I wasn't fulfilled with other guitars. As much as I love some of the other guitars, my Hammer Diablo, I regret selling that one, but that one, you know, there was a warp in the neck because I played it live so much in the hot lights and all that stuff. But I was never fulfilled with a guitar any more than I've ever been fulfilled with this guitar. And every time I pick up an SG, I always head to every SG in the store, and it's just, I use it as the benchmark. Are there better guitars out there? Absolutely. There's more modern sounding. There's actually more vintage sounding guitars too. But here's the kicker. There's nothing that quite does it like this. This does everything. It does vintage, it does modern, it does everything. It does jazz, it does blues, it does country, it does rock, metal, classic metal. It can even do extreme metal to a degree. Maybe not quite as much as a 7-string or whatever, or an 8-string or whatever. It can gent lightly, which is still pretty ballsy. Any sort of a sound is ballsy. And it has the tonal characteristics to do it. It screams to the high heaven. Again, this guitar is a bit of a wild stallion to play. It's almost too much for most people. But less is more. You can always back off the amp. You know, if you don't need that much gain, just take what you need. You know, if you got like a lot of times my gain is only to get like Van Halen like distortion, or even like a Metallica like distortion. A lot of times, if I'm on a modern amp like a Mesa Boogie, the distortion is gonna be on, or the gain is gonna be on like 3 or 4, and I got it. If not, the thing just turns to mud because it's just so much, you know, unless that's the sound you want. Now, one of these guitars sounds awesome with flat wounds. The last thing I'll leave on is what strings should you put on your SG? Well, so you gotta try not to, oh yeah, okay, I got time. Get a little dark in here anyway. One of the tricks with these guitars is because of this heel joint, okay, you really want to be careful what strings you put on. Again, one of the downsides to these guitars is I'm not saying they're like glass. They will hold up, but they won't take the abuse of a Stratocaster, Buddy Guy Stratocaster, which is a really cool Stratocaster. When he was young, he was going to a gig and he had this Fender Stratocaster, it was a parts bin Stratocaster, whatever. He says it was on the top of the bus or whatever, and it went flying off the bus at about 90 miles an hour, slid down the road. He picked it up and he said this was still in tune, and he just played it. Okay, this isn't going to ever have the construction build of a Stratocaster. Stratocaster is the boat anchor, the ironclad juggernaut of reliability because they're so heavily built, followed by maybe the Les Paul. They're very heavy built. The SG is a little more fragile, so you're not going to bash it around as much. You don't want to flex the neck. But if you go from 10 gauge strings and down, here's what you're going to find. 9 gauge strings suck on this guitar. It sucks ass. It is the worst sound you're ever going to get. It thins out the guitar too much. They just don't sound good. You lose the chunkiness, all that. You can do it, but you're not going to like it. And you probably won't even have to re-internate. Well, we'll talk about the bridge stuff later on, but if you go up to 11s or 12s, no problem, but you have to re-internate and get the stop bar just right, or else you'll have too much tension on the neck, and that could create a bowing over time. My guitars are always in 440 tuning. If you're going to tune up, you got to reset. These bridges, you only get so much, intonation adjustment you can get, but you can get the action really, really low, so that helps too. You don't need much, you know what I mean? 13s, whoop, gotta let my dog in. 13s, I've had 13s on the SG3, and I've had, yeah, poor girl, freezing out there. Hey, let the cat in. There's one. Are we missing a cat? I don't know. If I find a caticle on the deck tomorrow, all mad at me, I'll know what happened. So anyway, yeah, the best I find is just stick with the Gibson or any sort of 10 gauge strings. I find the Gibson Bright Wines just seem to work really well. I've tried probably about 100 different guitar strings on this, and I always come back to the 10s. You can't do bends with 10s like you can with 9s, but I find it's just the right amount of chunk, and the thicker the string, the thicker the tone. But I also find it's beautiful sustain and really nice for the clean tones. But yet it's still, you gotta, the action's low enough that you can really, bend those strings, whatever you want, and do all the crazy vibratos and all that. And 10s are also awesome for harmonics. But if you do go to a heavier string, intonate the guitar, take it to a luthier if you have to, do the proper adjustments on the guitar, because if you don't, you can warp the neck on these. The standards are not as fragile, but there we go. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the SG61 tour here. This is a reissue, obviously. Yeah, so there we go. These guitars are just so great. So anyway, hope you enjoyed that. Make sure you subscribe. There will be sound clips coming of this guitar, and obviously I'm starting to record with it right now, so you're going to be hearing lots. I've already recorded some stuff. Intergalactic Mega Blaster, SG61 Reissue, whatever I called that last little instrumental thing I recorded. Album sort of, or whatever, digital uploads. Yeah, you can hear it on there too. But anyway, yeah, there we go. So Rate, subscribe, share, comment, like. Be true to yourself. Be true to others. Always, always do the right thing. And have yourselves a great day. And rock and roll, man. One last flyby here. The Gibson SG with the nice big headstock. What a great, great, great guitar. Have a nice day, everybody.